people, welcome back to my channel. If you guys have been watching some of my videos, then welcome back, and if you guys haven't, then welcome to my channel. Now that I've gotten a few of these videos under my belt, I feel like we're just getting started, we're getting the hang of things, and I'm feeling a good vibe, so I hope you guys are too. Now, before I get into the topic of this video, I quickly want to go over my e-newsletter once again. If you guys are not aware, then I send out a newsletter via email every week. This newsletter encompasses updates on my videos and my content, and I also send out unlisted links of videos that aren't live yet on YouTube. One other big feature of my newsletter is the highlight section. As I'm out here creating, being a creative, whether it's as a dancer or a photographer, I know how much work, passion, and dedication this all takes. When someone recognizes our work, it not only feels good as an artist, but it also helps with morale to keep on going with what you're doing, and of course helps with exposure of your work. So I want to do that for my fellow creatives as well, to my audience. So every week within my highlight section, I highlight a creative and their work. This creative can be in any genre. It could be arts, painting, music, photography, dancing, poetry, honestly any realm. And if you guys subscribe to my e-newsletter, you guys have a chance for me to highlight your work as well. If you guys have a new project, a new album, a new painting, anything of the sort coming out, then definitely feel free to reach out to me. Send me your work, tell me about yourself, and I'd love to highlight your guys' work in my newsletter. Alright, now that that's out of the way, let's talk about photography, and more so how to get better at it. Whatever level you are at as a photographer, you're always learning. There's always new techniques to learn, always some theory that comes with it, and always new gear to try out. And as all of us know, this is a creative art. There's no right, there's no wrong, there are no hard rules, and that's exactly why you can keep on learning, because you can learn from other photographers, other artists, and just build upon the skill that you already have. I speak for myself when I say this. I constantly am watching other people's videos, reading articles, reading up on the latest gear, things like that to improve my own photography and my own skill level. So based on that, today I want to share 7 tips that can really improve your photography. These tips are things I've taken from my experience, things I've heard other people talk about, and for every tip that I have in this video, I don't just have it on my list because it looks nice on this list. I've tried out every one of these tips for myself, and that's really why I can vouch for them and tell you that it will improve your photography. The first tip is to take your camera everywhere. I know this seems obvious, but because DSLR cameras are bigger, they're obviously bigger than our phones, bigger than normal mundane items that we take around with us everywhere, sometimes it can seem like a nuisance. I've definitely been there where I'm going out somewhere and I toggle between the idea like, do I take my camera, do I not take my camera? And a lot of the times I have been lazy, taken the lazy route and not taken my camera with me, but I would highly suggest you do not do that. Some of the best pictures out there are the most natural, spontaneous images, and you can only get that if you have your camera and your gear ready with you. Now, I'm not saying take your whole kit with you all the time. This could just be your camera and a lens that you think is versatile enough for you to take and get good shots of whatever environment you're in. But again, you can't take those pictures if you don't have your camera with you, and our bodies learn in steps. So it's not like you're just gonna go out there one day with your camera and be a pro. If you have your camera with you every single time you're out, you take some shots here and there, even if it's for just 5 to 10 minutes, in those little increments day by day, you'll definitely grow as a photographer. Alright, my second tip is to take the picture from where someone wouldn't think to take it. I would say this is especially true when you're out somewhere taking pictures of people. When people are out wanting to get pictures at a certain location, they pull out their iPhone and they stand in front of the most beautiful looking background and take a picture there. Now, I would personally say that I value lighting over background a lot of the times. And from experience, I've noticed that when people stand in front of something that they look beautiful and they think is going to make that picture, a lot of the times that's not where the best lighting is placed. And in this case, I'm not talking about any physical lighting setup. I'm just talking about natural light here. But in a lot of instances, the background that you think is good and where you want to take the picture at is right where your light source is coming from. So think a little bit outside of the box here, and even if you just have your subject change the angle a little bit so the light is hitting at a better angle, That'll make your picture so much better. Also, taking a picture at an angle or at a side that people usually do not take it at is already going to make your images different. My third tip is to have bokeh in your foreground. I've done a whole video on this and I really think it's a tip that people need to use more. It's a simple tip that you can keep in your mind and every image will look different. In my other video where I explained this in depth, I talked about how a lot of the times I hold things in front of my lens to create a bokeh in front of my subject. Everyone talks about having bokeh in the back, you have your lights in the back, you have those perfect circles in the back, but what about adding perspective in your foreground? This can be done, like I said, by holding something in front of your lens or shooting through something. So for instance, here I have a picture of my subject on a stairwell and I'm shooting through the bars of the stairs itself. As you can tell, you can use this in so many instances. If you're at a wedding, maybe there's a water jug sitting at one of the tables, you could shoot the couple who's on the stage through the handle of the water jug and create a beautiful surrounding bokeh and have your couple in focus. It's really not hard to incorporate in your photography, it just takes a little bit of thinking. And because this item is going to be in the foreground, it's going to be blurred out and you can't really tell what it is, it doesn't really matter what that item is that you're shooting through. Your subject is still going to be in focus like it would without that bokeh in the front. But this just adds so much more perspective to your photography. My fourth tip is angles. Change up your angles. This kind of goes along with my second tip where it's seeing things differently from other people. If someone is taking a picture of a mountain straight on and that is where everyone takes a picture from, what if you just sat down on the ground and took it from there? What if you went a little higher, climbed on some stairs and took it from there? Or completely change up the angle. If everyone's taking it straight on, go take your image from a 45-degree angle. There's so many ways you can use angles like this. You can take a picture of something from the bottom, you could take it from the top. Change things up and that'll really increase the quality of your photos. Why this works is because we're all drawn to photography that almost looks surreal. And so if it's just an image of something that we can look at with our eyes head on and it looks like that in the image, it's like, oh, okay, that's realistic and that's cool. But if you see something from a different perspective, that's what catches your eye. That's what you're inclined to look at. And you're like, wait, how did they get that image? Or where did they get that image from? It just really captures more attention. My fifth tip is to get at the level of your subject. I would say that this tip is especially for product photography and then working with either kids or animals. If you're taking a picture of, let's say, a camera, it's no fun to see it from a few feet away. If you're just walking by it, that's how you would see it. But it's really cool to see it from right where it's sitting, to see all the details of it, get up close, and just be at the level of the actual camera. Or for instance, if you're taking a picture of a dog, again, you might not get the best picture just standing up straight how you normally would and have the dog be sitting on the ground and just clicking your camera away. If you get onto the level of the dog, sit down on the floor, put the camera at the level eye of the dog, that makes the image more real. It seems like you're there with the dog in the image. And that's what captures the essence of the picture that you're trying to take. Again, the same technique would go for kids. If you take a picture of some kids running around from a little bit afar or from where you'd be watching them, or you naturally being taller than them, standing up and just clicking away, you're not capturing the moment. If you get down onto their level, they're running, they might run past you, you might be on their level, they might run their hand like this. You're really gonna capture that movement and that action, and that's what's gonna capture that moment. That's a perfect segue into my next tip, which is movement. Capturing movement in photography is huge, especially nowadays when we have so many photographers and people who are interested in photography. A lot more people are interested in the modeling world and have access to it because there's so many more photographers. Posing is the normal go-to, but I would say that that doesn't give you unique images. At the end of the day, a lot of the poses that we have our subjects do have been seen by the world already, but movement is one of those things that'll probably look different every time you capture it. You can incorporate movement in your pictures in so many ways. You could have your background moving, you could have your subject moving, having your subject just twirl, act natural, have your shutter speed high so you can capture that movement crisply. And again, it's not hard, but it's something to be mindful of. We have to be a little more mindful when shooting to capture that movement. If you're out on a photo shoot, making sure to tell your subject or subjects to be moving. Move naturally, whip your hair, look at your phone, look at your watch, move your arms. Little things like that can really add to your image. And my last tip for this video is to look at other photographers' work. Going back to the fact that photography is a creative art form, at least for me, it's one of those things where my inspiration does come from other things. One way we can really get inspired is to look at other people's photography. You can look at their photography to understand their technique, to understand their editing style, their coloring style, their perspective. You can learn so much from just looking at someone's images. And when we do that, we can incorporate their style a little bit into our skill set, and that only adds to your own style and your own images. So whether you do this by just looking on Instagram, looking online, subscribing to photography newsletters, anything of that sort, you can really get inspired by looking at other people's work. This isn't only true in photography, this is true for almost everything I do in my life. I'm a dancer as well, and I do get inspired by looking at other people's work, whether it's their choreography, whether it's their performances, things like that. So I think that this is true in a lot of things, and I hope that this resonates with you guys as well. That's it. That's 7 quick and easy tips that you can really just be a little more mindful of when you're shooting, and that's really going to help the quality of your photography and your images. I'm not claiming to be the best photographer out there, but like I mentioned, I've learned a lot of this just by shooting, by looking at other people's photography, by reading some articles, watching some videos, and I just want to relay this information to you guys. So I really hope that this was helpful and that you guys at least gained a tip or two that you can really incorporate into your photography to make your skills better. That's what we're here for. We're here to support each other in our art forms, improve our own skill levels, and live happy lives. So let's do just that. If these tips were helpful to you, then go ahead and press the like button, and don't forget to subscribe for my weekly videos. As a reminder, I also send out my newsletters every week, so if you guys want a chance to be featured in it, definitely don't forget to subscribe to that. The link to subscribe is in my description box below. That's it for me today. Thanks for hanging out again, and you guys will see me in my next video.